trouble. Is it fair to say that your musical heritage is basically stemming out of New York? The sort of, for lack of a better word, free funk, jazz.
Well, that's part of my musical heritage. Of course, the foundation of where I came from was Chicago, so it was all about, you know, blues and heavy funk.
Yeah.
So you had to, and also straight ahead jazz. I had to learn that, wanted to learn that after I got beyond the regular pentatonic blues scales and things. Yeah. So those things were there for me to draw upon. When I got to New York, yes, I got involved with this kind of
so
freeform, whatever you.
So actually, then tell me, exactly who did you play with in Chicago? What was the, or even if it's not people that are known, what kind of groups did you play with in Chicago?
Well, I mean, the heritage. I mean, Earth, Wind, and Fire lived like 2 blocks away. They were born, you know. I mean, they were growing up like on the South Side in the same neighborhood. Ramsey Lewis was a neighbor. I used to play with his son. We had a band together.
Okay, yeah.
I played with the guitarist on Miles's Agartha record, Pete Cozy. He is and was, you know, on the scene.
Oh yeah, Pete Cozy is a true legend.
Yeah,
and maybe a legend that has slipped under the radar a wee bit, but he's one of the most important.
Not for us. Not for us.
Exactly. But now we're talking to the general public here, and they might know Miles, and when they think about guitarists for Miles, they go Schofield and McLaughlin, or Mike Stern, but these cats are actually more important in shaping the sound that was Miles and what really revolutionized the music world.
Absolutely.
So Pete Cozy.
I mean, Pete Cozy had a sound that was kind of the direct opposite of where Hendrix was going. Hendrix's sound was really like a freight train.
Yeah.
And Pete Cozy's thing was really kind of like wiry, you know, kind of coming from that blues tradition, but just taking it really out into like whatever psychedelic kind of level.
Right. So did he have a direct influence on you?
Direct influence I wouldn't say, but I would just say all the things that made Pete Cozy made me. Okay. He just came before me, and it was always a pleasure to see someone who was farther along in the game. Okay, that's what happens when you put blues sound together with the jazz knowledge, you know, because a lot of the jazz people, if you see from the East Coast to the West Coast, they play jazz in a kind of pianistic way, very, very tame kind of tone, you know. But the way a small group of Chicago guys were playing it, like Pete was with like overdriven sounds and all that, because of that urban blues tradition, you know. So of course Pete was maybe 15 years down the road from me, so I had one figure that I could look at and say, oh, that's where it can go, which gives, of course, younger musicians a lot of confidence to go in areas that many people are not going in, you know, new frontiers.
That sort of accounts for a couple of the parameters of your sound, but then another big thing is the free jazz, whatever. I wouldn't even want to word the word even jazz or funk, but just the free aspect of what you're doing also. How did that come into the picture?
Well, as you know as well, Chicago is the birthplace of the AACM. And I had the pleasure of one of the founding fathers, Mohall Richard Abrams. I had the pleasure of being featured on his first record. When I came to New York, those were some of the first guys I looked up. And that record actually became Downbeat Record of the Year, 1981, I believe it was. It was called Blues Forever. So it was all this, you know, what people were calling free, which is actually a whole lot of form going on. That people just hear it and think that it's free because they're not used to hearing those forms. And then over that I was featured playing a kind of very bluesy kind of dialogue answer to the orchestral arrangements, you know. But the third very, very important aspect of I believe my playing is just the Haitian part, you know, because my family's from Haiti, and I was always surrounded by both the commercial music of that field, but also the roots music. And at a certain point in time, I guess the rhythmic funk thing I needed to stretch out farther than that. So because I had this Haitian kind of background, different set of rhythms. How do you do that on guitar? You know, overdriven sounds and all these things. So I had to find a way how to start to bring that into the music, you know, and I think that expanded the music a bit beyond just the regular funky thing, you know.
Right. Do you think that French culture has any influence on Haitian culture?
Absolutely. I mean,
even in the music.
Yes, I mean classical music, French folk music. It's always been a kind of part of the stream that runs through the French island music. You know, you could tell that. You could tell that's different than, say, for instance, the English, where you had reggae and stuff.
For instance, does Haitian kids learn French nursery rhymes and stuff like that?
I imagine they did, but you have to understand. I grew up on the south side of Chicago.
I know.
So
but you're Haitian, so you would
yes.
Going on now.
It's a typical mixture where you would put like, say, for instance, a French folk melody, but the rhythmic thing that you would be doing under it would be typically, say, African or Caribbean. So that would totally change the thing, you know. Sure. In the same way that, you know, the reggae cats, you know, would take some melodies they heard from the Impressions or whatever, and they would just put a little, you know, stagger in the rhythm, a little, you know, it's the same thing in Haitian music, you know. So.
And then you got to New York. By the time you got to New York, then you pretty much basically formed your whole musical identity, would you say? Or did it really make a turnaround when you came to New York?
I think New York challenged me to make sense of all the stuff that I was playing, because at the time I came in New York, it was still fairly open. You know, I mean, the things that you could do.
So just so people's knowledge, what year was that? When did you get?
Oh, that was 79, 80s. So what I first started doing was playing with a lot of jazz people like Chico Hamilton, Elvin Jones, and these kind of people. What I quickly found out was that overdriven sound just wasn't going to work in the Village Vanguard. You know, I mean, Max Gordon used to see me coming and was like, "Oh no, not you again," and I'd be, "Yeah, me," you know, and you know, it's going to be like that. You know, not to say that it was piercing loud, but they, on a jazz level, they just weren't used to that kind of, you know, drama going on, you know, chaos or whatever. I found that it was better for me to hook up with the guys who were like kind of in the no wave vibe, you know, like at the time I think you had Joe Bowie and D-Funk, Blood Omer was doing something, James White and the Blacks and all those kind of cats. Yeah, because there we would play, and then I had my group. I started the Blue Wave Bandits, which was actually a later part of that whole movement. Before that, I was playing with Oludara's Okra Orchestra that had.
And Oludara, of course, is a great trumpet player.
Trumpet player, right, and storytelling, whatever. Yeah. But I could play that guitar sound in those kind of clubs. Yeah. So if you move that from the jazz clubs of New York into a kind of like the Peppermint Lounge, the Pyramid Club, you know, CBGB's, you can actually like. It's not a problem with the volume. I mean, you know, turn it up.
So did you also hook up with what they used to call the downtown scene or so? Like John Zorn, those people? Yeah, I mean, not exactly with those people, but I mean, I was one of the first bands to go into the Knitting Factory. I mean, I mean, the first couple of weeks we were there, and from that I got a good relationship with Michael Dorff and his other two partners at the time. And that became a consistent thing where I could build that Blue Wave Bandit sound. And then from there I got... and who was in that band?
The original band was, myself, Daryl Jones, who's now playing with the Rolling Stones, and a drummer named Chango Everett. So it started out as a trio. But of course, Daryl went on to play with Miles and Sting and Rolling Stones. So obviously he went to do those kind of things. But the actual solid working band was myself, Alfredo Elias, Melvin Gibbs, and an outstanding organ keyboard rapper named Mark Kundalini Batson. Kundalini Mark Batson was his name, who's now producing for Dr. Dre. Okay. So, but at that time, that was really the set band, and that's the band we just played many years. Always in the Knitting Factory. We got a deal with Polydor in Japan, and then there we moved to DIW, and we did altogether about 4 records under that group.
And you also worked with jazz legends as Pharoah Sanders.
Pharoah, I did Miles's Amandala record.
Right.
Produced Cassandra Wilson, a couple of records for Cassandra Wilson, also played on them. And I mean, Archie Shepp, I mean, a lot of different people. So then I moved to Berlin, and from there I started to audition people. I didn't really want to use drums anymore, and I started auditioning a lot of African drummers, and then we formulated the boom bop concept.
Yeah.
And then I hooked up with Archie Shepp because I did a jam with Archie and Idris Muhammad, who was also like one of the original funk jazz drummers from New Orleans. And Archie really dug it, I really dug it, so I just asked Archie could he come and, you know, play in the band, guest, you know. And so that whole boom bop thing, that started my European period, I guess I could say.
Right.
And so from there, I got the Three Kings Power Trio, and
that is basically the Three Kings, and you have a couple of other projects.
I got a couple of other projects, but anyway, it's still me playing guitar. So.
No, but what are these other projects?
The latest project is Three Kings Afro-Logic. I'm using Felix Sabaleko from Cameroon, and Mark Peterson, who also plays bass with Blood Ulmer. I have also the Gypsies Reloaded, which is a very popular band. We do the music of Bandit Gypsies, and that's with Calvin Weston on drums and Melvin Gibbs. The original drummer was Cindy Blackman, but then Calvin took over. My latest project is a project called Blues Bandits with Dean Bowman singing and myself guitar, and we have a transatlantic version where we do the Mali thing, you know, with Cora and then guitar, and also so just trying to connect Mississippi with, you know, Mali, you know, basically.
Where Mississippi came from.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's talk about your connection with FRAMUS.
Yes.
How did that come into being?
Well, my connection with FRAMUS was basically I just moved to Berlin. That was around 90. Well, it was the first time I went to the Messe. I guess that must have been 94 or something like that. And I was endorsing Schecter guitars when they were still really making, you know, really nice solid guitars. And I was also endorsing Mesa Boogie. But I was all the way over here, and I just went to the Messe, and they just approached me. You know, I just came over the stand, I was just curious, and Stefan Mans, who was at the time the artist relations guy, he just came into me and said, you know, the boss says, you know, we'll give you, you know, whatever you want. So I started to try out guitars, and I immediately, like, I mean, I went through everything, but the thing that I really fell in love with was that combination with the Tennessee and the Ruby Riot. And that's basically what I play today, you know. A million different versions of it, but it's still that, you know, it's a really classic combination.
Cool. Is there anything specific you can say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think
how it works together, what's the
Yeah, I think, well, what's really unique about the Tennessee is that, and what I haven't really experienced in any guitar really, there's an authentic kind of mixture between like the Gibson 335 and the middle rhythm pickup of the Strat. You know, everybody knows that kind of, you know, Jimmy Nolan sound that you get on that James Brown had on all those records, you know, and you can really get that sound with that guitar. So when you're playing percussively, that's a very kind of penetrating sound that percussive parts can really, you know, benefit from. So if you like those two kind of different colors, you've got that in it, you know. Not exactly, but you know, you're working with those two colors, you know. So, and the combination of the Ruby Riot, well, the Ruby Riot is great. My favorite combination is the Ruby Riot head with the 4 12-inch. Because when you crank that up a little bit, you get a nice compression, you know, on the bottom speaker, and the speaker starts speaking to you, kind of like. And I just like that kind of sound, growing up in Chicago and dealing with all that kind of natural overdrive. So you can really get that from that combination.
Jean-Paul, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, Jonas. Peace.